So I'm Stacey, Search Director at Techmark in the UK, and I basically do SEO and content marketing. And the biggest problem for me doing that is explaining to my friends and family what the hell I do. So nobody really understands what I do in my family. My best friend, if you ask her what I do, she'll say that I get paid to piss around on Twitter all day. I've made it clear that's not the case every day. My mum, I've spent 7 years educating my mum about this. She says I do something to do with Google. My nan, I love grandparents, she just says computers. And she really means that as well. Anytime anybody in my family has a problem with anything vaguely electrical, you should speak to Stacey. She works on computers. I was literally asked to fix somebody's hair straighteners. Increasingly, though, it's not just my mum and my nan who've got a problem understanding content marketing. I think that we're now finding the clients, bosses, people paying the wages and the bills are like, well, what am I paying for? What actually is this? And I think it's because of this very scientific graph of mine here. It's been well documented in recent years that investment in content marketing has just shot through the roof. And how we report on it hasn't really changed that much. But expectation is now going through the roof. In some cases, content marketing budgets are not too far off PPC budgets. And yet one of them is saying, so like, yeah, for every euro you spent, I got you a social share. And the other one's saying, well, for every euro you spent, I got you 15. So you can kind of understand why people are struggling. A few years ago, we were just taking very small experimental budgets from our client out of their existing retainers. And if we got them a few new followers, that was like, yeah, okay, all right, fine. You know, you didn't really take any more money. Meh, whatever. When we started taking bigger proportions of the budget, it's like, okay, you got me some links, and that ties in with this, and yeah, okay, yeah, that's all right. Then when we started charging extra budget, it was like, the fuck? What's this report? How many links, what? My PPC guy, my SEO guy got me like gazillions of pounds. We still report sometimes in really fluffy metrics, and it doesn't really work. And there's a reason for it. It's because fluffy metrics, impressions, and things like that, anybody can get them. It's really quite easy. I have a lot of experimental Facebook pages, and one of them is the fact that I'm trying to prove the point that bullshit quotes on backgrounds get shared more than anything else that anybody with any form of strategy can ever achieve. So, this is one of my posts. This is a page that I set up 10 days ago with no promotion on the page whatsoever. And I promoted some of the posts. So one of these posts, £5. I know Brexit has killed the pound, but that's still only about, what, 7 euros? 6, 7 euros? And that got me 18,000 impressions, 3,000 engagements. But that then led to some organic reach. So as of this morning, that's 9.3 million in reach. 18,000 were paid with that £5. 9.2 million happened because people share this crap. 500,000 engagements. 500,000 people engaging with, I'll show you the content in a minute, it's terrible. Those reports look quite impressive. You could go to a client and say, okay, 9 million impressions, 9 million people who've never seen you before have now seen you. 500,000 of them have engaged with you. This was the post. Like, I spend months planning strategy for clients that get us nowhere near this, and these bullshit, make you sick in your mouth kind of posts. I love my mother, but this makes me feel sick, and I wrote this. That's the kind of stuff that people want on Facebook. People share crap, and it doesn't matter. 9 million impressions, so what? It will turn into nothing, apart from me proving a point. So, this kind of stuff, I got you all the impressions, bullshit. 55 retweets, guys, yeah, amazing, no, bullshit. Couple of links, yeah, some value there. This certain mummy blogger mentioned you. Yeah, so what, it's bullshit. But it's not easy to do it better. We have to do it better, it's not easy. In 2010, we first took our first steps into doing content beyond just copywriting, like bigger visual content for links and marketing goals, and this was it. So this disaster, we called it an infographic. What it actually is it's Photoshop vomiting on some really shit content about stress. And when I look back on this piece of content now, what I see is that there's a dinosaur in the background, and still to this day, 7 years on, nobody knows why there's a dinosaur in the background. But that really isn't the only reason that this was shit. It generated 2 links and 4 tweets, and I paid for one of the links. Yeah, you won't be surprised to find that didn't result in an inquiry. So that meeting was awkward. I sat like this, apologising to my client for a period of time, and that was pretty much as embarrassing as having Boris Johnson considered a credible politician. Fast forward a few years, a lot of trial and error, and I'm actually quite proud of what we do. So we are delivering links as an SEO agency, and they're good. Old survey of ours, surveyed 2,000 people about mobiles, get a good headline, get covered in the national, international press. This is 2 years old and it still builds 15 links a month with no effort. Recent one, talk about neighbours fighting with one another. Again, get in the press, get links in the Independent, Yorkshire Post, Regional, National. We do some work with the company that deals with the British government's startup loan scheme. Nice stories about aspiring entrepreneurs in the UK. They get covered, that's great. And we can easily correlate links with an improvement in sales because of this sort of 5-step approach. Get the content, build the links, that'll result in improved rankings, that's going to result in traffic and sales. Fine, we can live with that. But it can get better. So what if we can get it down to 2 steps? Through content that then creates a remarketing audience that then creates a sale. Or 1 step, content that creates a sale. So that's what we've been doing more of recently. So this is quite an old piece now, actually. Where should I go on holiday? It exists because thousands of people ask Google that question every month. I tend to ask my husband, but some people ask Google, where should I go on holiday? This existed. There were loads of people who'd done this in boring article form. We thought we don't need a new idea here, we just need to execute this one better. So we did, and it went down very, very well. Built links, all that social engagement stuff went really well. Went to number 1 for where should I go on holiday. So in the 3 months after launch, just through organic, that did 20,000 visits. People book from this piece of content. They come on, they complete, in some cases, they complete the quiz. At the end of the quiz, we take them to a destination landing page and get them in the booking cycle. Some of them book there and then. The majority don't book there and then. They go away, they come back through a different channel later, we remarket them, and they come back afterwards. And similarly with content like this, one of these clients' biggest audiences is like 18 to 30s clubbing holiday types. And our research showed that if they go to Ibiza or Faliraki or Magaluf every single year, apart from having a week-long hangover, they go based on when certain DJs are playing certain venues. So this research happens before they get to the part where they're going to book their hotel and their flight. So we get in there early, the research stage. These people are cheap to acquire because PPC is not expensive at the research stage compared to later on. Get a lot of organic, social, low-cost PPC traffic, and then we retarget them. So if these people are looking at San Antonio listings, we're going after them later on with San Antonio ads. We don't do the PPC here, but we're adding this extra value because the PPC team in-house are generating acquisitions at about 25% the cost of their usual AdWords acquisitions by doing this. So all of a sudden, the content's not just about SEO, it's about playing this part for every other channel. So what I want to do today is give you a few tips, tools, things that we're doing to get content at that stage to generate value and contribute to revenue. Super simplified way that we look at this journey to purchase, and it's super, super, super simplified, is we break it down to 3 stages. The discovery stuff is getting your content out there, seen by all these people, kind of fluffy. Decision, convincing and converting, you're going to hear from and have heard from people far more qualified to talk to you about that than I will. This is where this opportunity lies, to get people early through content that's fairly easy to win them with. So this, for me, is where content actually can become a revenue driver. And it's research. Not just researching the customer, though. It's researching the triggers, the events that happen in their lives that put them in the market for your product or service. And we'll typically break products and services out into two areas, and we think that people have fairly different paths in the research process based on them. The desire products, things that people want, things they choose to buy, products they anticipate launching. And then the need products, the things that people buy reluctantly just because they have to have them. So Apple stuff, designer labels, craft items, status cars. Your desire products aren't necessarily expensive products, they're things that people just enjoy buying. The need products are things that people really fucking hate buying. Car insurance because I have to. Washing machines because I have to. Things like that. And there's crossover. Some products, clothes, some people love buying, some people buy because they have to. There's things like hobbyist purchases, dancewear. People love dancing, but do they love the products? Maybe not. So there's a crossover there. But it amazes me, if you've got a desire product, like an iPhone, it amazes me how few iPhone sellers take advantage of that. I'm already Googling, because I'm sad, iPhone 7 release date, headphone jack, when's it coming out? Those are anticipation queries. I'm in the market to buy that stuff. And yet when you do a search for this, there's nobody bidding on it, despite the fact the volume is high enough to bid on it. And nobody who's going to be selling this iPhone later is engaging in this content. You can get traffic to that content and retarget that audience later on when the iPhone 7 comes out. They're going to buy it from somewhere. But what about desire product, the sort of need products? A little bit harder than desire products in some ways. So this is typically an event that's going to occur. Let's use a pretty boring example of a washing machine. So there's like 6 or 7 scenarios at least that we came up with that might trigger somebody buying a washing machine. They've just moved into their own house, it doesn't have a washing machine. They've just had a baby. Their little washing machine is no longer big enough because babies just puke on everything every day. I've got one, that's all they do. So, or it could be this, my washing machine's broken. So then we need to understand their objective. It's not my washing machine's broken, I'm buying a new one right now. It's probably, my washing machine's broken, is this piece of shit still in warranty? No, right, okay. I've got to figure out how to fix my washing machine. Then the online actions they take are things like this. Go into Google. There's a Nusi Lindo 300 won't start. Hot point washing machine not spinning, not draining. These are the sort of keywords they're going to go to Google with at this point. You can get people here very, very, very easily. And I'm going to talk about the tools that we're using to do that. So essentially, you can plan content around triggers rather than around just keywords like people used to do, or rather than just around engagement. And you can make trigger content quite engaging as well. If your content, whether it's an interactive quiz or a blog post or a photograph, whatever it is, if it answers someone's query or need at the time of research, you've got somebody there who has a positive experience on your site who you can retarget later. Not everybody whose washing machine breaks is going to buy a new one. Some of them are going to fix it. You might inadvertently help some of them to fix it instead of selling them one. That's okay. Did actually have one of our clients say, do you think we should make that content really shit so they can't fix it and they have to buy a new one? It's like, no, I don't think we should do that. But what we did do is instead focus on the searches that implied older washing machines or problems that implied, we just spoke to a washing machine, like you call them mechanics, I don't know what they are. And we focused on content that suggested an older machine, or a machine where maybe it might be more expensive to repair it than buy a new one. So you can get a bit clever like that. Understanding what these trigger events are first, some of it's going to be common sense, some of it you can just brainstorm between you, but you can just survey your customers, or your target customers. So you could go to your existing buyers, find out why they bought this product, or go to OnePoll, YouGov, quite expensive, but very, very good, or Google Consumer Surveys and Toluna Quick Surveys and just go for your demographic. If it's an everyday purchase that everybody's going to need at some point, then Google Consumer Surveys should cover it. You can ask 1,000 people a question, like $100. Why did you buy your last washing machine? What happened to the previous one? One area that I really quite like taking advantage of is product recalls, basically taking advantage of somebody else's really bad PR. So, Trading Standards in the UK has a database of product recalls. EU's got a website, the same thing. If you see a product that you do that's quite like it, that's on recall, You can optimize content around alternatives to that product, or even just advertise a piece of content around similar kind of products you sell and hit the PPC with it. Product recalls make the press because they're public information. So you can go off and easily find people who are in the market for a replacement for something that may have potentially killed them. Finding out the queries that people are making about their concerns, Google Keyword Planner's all right. KeywordTool.io is better. That's got the Google data, but it's also got YouTube data. And during that consideration phase, when people are asking questions rather than looking for products, YouTube keyword data is probably a bit better because people go to YouTube looking for answers to questions, tutorials, how-tos, cats, more cats, and Justin Bieber videos. The Justin Bieber, not that relevant, but the informational query is good. If you're doing, incidentally, more in-depth product research, Amazon is essentially just is a product search engine. People don't go to Amazon looking for information, they go looking for products. So you can really easily find variants of the ways that people are looking for certain products at that sort of later purchase stage. One of my favorites, answerthepublic.com, which essentially just scrapes Google's suggestions data, which is awesome. So this is where you can find things like you type in hot point washing machine, it goes off and finds all the questions that people have asked, the things they've said about it. Hot point washing machine smells like burning. That sounds like a problem that might mean someone needs a new washing machine. So, you go off and you do your how-to content, how to fix your burning washing machine, buy a new one. And factfox.com is absolutely amazing. So you go off there, you stick your keyword into factfox.com, and then you basically go stick a load of URLs in for forums or how-to sites or things like that. And FactFox goes and scrapes all these websites for you, nice and easily, and comes back with a list of questions that people have at any point asked on these websites about that keyword. It does also come back with a load of bullshit, so there's some manual filtering you need to do. But people don't always ask these questions online, not yet. So this amazingly, amazingly underused resource that most of our clients fail to use properly, to be honest, is the call center staff. So we work with big travel brands who've got call centers full of hundreds and hundreds of people. We work with insurance brands whose entire business model is call centers. These people are hearing questions every single day. And if someone will ask a human a question, they'll probably ask Google at some point. Get your content together based on that. It's not easy extracting questions from these people, in my experience. We asked all of our clients for this information now. One of them in particular, travel client, took us about 6 months to get these questions together. They all came in like a notepad file, millions of them. And we always just say, we need the questions, and if it's a particularly complicated question, preferably the answer as well. Massive list of questions, and there's all kinds of things like visa requirements for going to Dubai, and it's like, okay, do you guys have the answers by any chance? Oh, you want the answers? That's another 6 months. So it's not easy to get this information. And when you do get the information, we've always found we basically have to have somebody sifting through the information for 2 days to turn it into a list that you can do anything with. But it's very much worthwhile. Because there aren't really any tools that are particularly good at giving you every single question that people ask Google. And the reason for that is that something like 2/3 of queries typed into Google every day are brand new queries. It's people like my nan who type in very specific information, like, I think I want to go to the supermarket. Do you know if Tesco's is open right now? And do they have sausages? Like, very, very, very specific queries, but 2/3 of queries are brand new. So the data doesn't really exist for this stuff. The other thing that we do really, really, really well, and it's very, very easy, is using PPC to promote content cost-effectively. So things like this, what to pack for a skiing trip, no one's bidding. Now Google stops you bidding on very, very low volume stuff, but these are volume queries. They've got a bit of volume and variance of it. If nobody's bidding, it's cheap. So you can get an audience to your content quite easily that you can then build retargeting lists with. Ibiza Nightlife Guide. This was a screenshot from June. Like, the season's kicking off in Ibiza and nobody's bidding on this. Hot point washing machine smells like burning. Funnily enough, no one's bidding on that either. But again, that's surprisingly, it's a big enough query we've found to actually be able to bid on it. The thing here is setting expectations. Don't expect conversions right now if what you've done is consideration content. Don't expect the guy who's complaining that his Hot Point washing machine smells like burning or his Zanussi dishwasher smells like fish. That's another query. Don't expect those to come on your website and think, well, this smells like fish. I should buy a new one because this call to action's in a good place. Not really going to work like that. So it's setting expectations to essentially remember that people won't just come back either later. So yeah, you can build a big remarketing list. You can build a big audience of people who are in the market for the product potentially at some point. But you will have to retarget them, whether it's through PPC, whether it's through with AdWords, or whether it's through social retargeting. Where social media does have a tangible value is actually when you've got a set audience of people who you know are in the market for your product, and you can reach them with an ad rather than a quote about how wonderful your mother is. So the retargeting part of this is really, really important. And I guess essentially the whole thing for us is simplifying content with really, really overthought content to the point where everything's got to be big, HTML5 interactives, big quizzes, and we do a load of those if it's needed. Where should I go on holiday? It was a quiz because that was better than the articles that were out there. It wasn't an original idea, it was an original execution. It doesn't have to be infographics, it can just be how-tos and text content. And if you know for sure that somebody needs it, or somebody wants it, or it answers somebody's question, that it's got value. And I mean, as an SEO person, talking about relying on PPC to drive traffic to your content is a little bit painful. It's very effective, and it doesn't have to cost the world either. So retargeting effectively, really, really important. The other thing is measurement. We use Google Analytics for most of this, which is a nightmare. And obviously you've got people then coming in from different devices at different stages. So attribution on this stuff is flaky at best. But you can go into analytics and you can see the landing pages that have contributed to conversions. So you can see that someone was on where should I go on holiday at one point, then converted. It's not a full picture. We are missing conversions desperately. We're really, really missing the mobile picture. But you have to agree some form of attribution and consistently stick with it. I think one of the biggest issues that we have generally with this kind of thing is that we'll say, okay, we're going to say, for one of our clients, we say 90% value last click, and then we split the remainder between all the previous clicks on attribution. And that's great for our bit, but then when the PPC guys come in and say, okay, but if it's PPC, we think it should be 100% last click. Unless the last click was organic, then it should be 100% the first click. So you get, you've got problems with attribution, I think, if you've got multiple departments, but you do need to agree how it's going to be measured and stick with that measurement and make it fairly consistent. Then report tangibly. So fine, if you're targeted for some reason on share of voice or impressions or social shares, report on it, fine. But just bear in mind that with content marketing, more and more our reports are being put side by side with direct marketing channels, where you are getting things like, for every £1 spent, we got 15 back. And if you're reporting for every £1 spent, we got you a retweet, it doesn't look quite as attractive. So do measure effectively. Use free tools to find out what people are looking for, and keep it really, really simple with the content. Don't overcomplicate unless you need to. Thank you very much.